At the start of our anime, we meet Alya, a Russian girl who basically breaks the school's popularity meter not just because she's ridiculously beautiful, but because she can ace a test while simultaneously dunking on everyone in sports. The story begins and we see Alya gracefully walking into the school. Just then a super confident second-year student, let's call him Captain Embarrassment, struts over, trying way too hard to impress her. Spoiler alert, it was his biggest life mistake. Alya, in front of the entire student body, drops him like a bad anime plot twist. Harsh, but iconic. From that day on, Alya had exactly 0 friends, except for one Masachika Kuze, a first-year student whose social life was basically anime, and more anime. Like any self-respecting anime fan, Kuze spent entire last nights binge-watching anime until his brain went full potato mode. Naturally, this results in him dozing off in class. Alya, not one to tolerate slackers, gives his chair a solid kick to wake him up. Poor Kuze, blinking away sleep, explains that he stayed up the entire night discussing anime with friends and forgot his chemistry book. This was old news in the Kuze Chronicles. He moves his desk next to Alya for proximity advantage or whatever, but eventually, the nap monster strikes again. Alya, losing all patience, pinches him with her pen. You'd think this would escalate into a full-blown anime slapstick scene, and it does, but the teacher, impressed, calls on him anyway, assuming even a certified slacker like Kuze was ready to shine. Kuze, however, had no idea what the question was. Out of pity, or maybe because she secretly likes watching him fail, Alya subtly points at the answer. Kuze, full of confidence, blurts it out, and as you guys must have guessed, it was wrong. Alya then calmly stands up and drops the correct answer like a plot twist nobody saw coming. Later, Kuze confronts her. Why'd you trick me? Alya shrugs. I was just pointing at the question number. Yeah, sure, and I'm secretly a space alien. Just then, Alya mutters something in Russian. Kuze, confused, asks what she said. She casually brushes it off, saying she called him stupid, but the truth is, she called him cute. And the biggest plot twist is that Kuze understood Russian. He knows exactly what she said but decides not to embarrass her. After class, Kuze whips out his phone to join a fun activity for a prize. Alya, being the responsible student council member, argues that phones are strictly emergency use only. Kuze flexes his reasoning, saying, it is an emergency, there are only 2 hours left to win this game. Alya tries to confiscate it, but then Kuze spots the moon goddess Tsukimiki card, a silver-haired beauty he's been crushing on, and gushes about how beautiful her silver hairs are. Alya, deadpan, hands him his phone back and says in Russian, my hair is silver too, so why don't you like me? Kuze, shocked like he just got hit with truck kuin, asks her what she said. She shrugs him off, saying, I just called you a loser. The plot thickens with the introduction of 2 new baddies, Yuki and Masha, during the lunch breal. Meanwhile, Kuze and his friends were having lunch and gossiping about how stunning Masha is. Being Alya's elder sister, she was basically Alya but with extra elegance, and lamenting that she rejects every guy, claiming she already has a boyfriend. Kuze, ever the genius, mocks his friend, saying, even if she were single, I wouldn't stand a chance. His friends were like, shut up, Kuze, at least you get to sit next to Alya and call her by her nickname. Side note, Alya's real name is Alicia, but only Kuze gets the VIP pass to call her Alya. The conversation pivots to Yuki, who apparently rejects even more boys than Masha. She flashes her signature smile at the group, but Kuze, ever oblivious, pretends not to notice. Soon, Alya and Yuki join the group, sliding into the lunch table like nothing happened with classic cool girls enter the room energy. Kuze did not look thrilled at all that Yuki decided to plop herself next to him, like, oh no, not another girl invading my personal disaster zone. Meanwhile, Yuki was practically bouncing with joy, acting way too familiar with him, which immediately sends Alya's internal jealousy meter off the charts. Watching another girl get cozy with Kuze visibly bothers her, though she's too classy to say it. Yuki then casually drops a bombshell that she and Kuze have been childhood friends. Back in middle school, she was the president and he was the vice president. Kuze only took the role because Yuki begged him, because obviously, he cannot say no to anyone ever, even if it makes him look like a doormat. After lunch, Yuki leaves and Alya just couldn't resist her jealousy anymore and says, I never thought a loser like you could have a female friend. Her voice was dripping with sarcastic elegance. Kuze, somehow surviving the verbal nuclear strike, responds, well, don't you count? You're my female friend too. Alya, face straight as ice but secretly soft inside, mutters, yes, we're friends, then walks away. And yes, she flashes a small, but very secret smile. Next, we flash back to Kuze's childhood and see a blonde-haired Russian girl waiting for him, and it's revealed that their friendship ran deep. Thanks to her, he even learned Russian. But like all tragic anime backstories, those days are long gone, and Kuze doesn't even remember her name. Still, he wishes he could see her again, explaining why he somehow understands Alya's Russian sass in the present. Back in present, Kuze shows up early to school, probably thinking, "Today, I will be a functioning human," and proceeds to do literally everything, cleaning the classroom, arranging desks, even scrubbing the floors like some heroic janitor. Just then Alya arrives, calm and graceful as ever, asking why he's doing her student council duties. Kuze mutters, "I just got up early this morning," which, if you ask anyone, is a flimsy excuse. As he was doing his noble janitor work, he notices Alya's socks were dirty. She casually mentions, "They got splashed by Truck Kun on the way here," and sits down to remove them. Kuze, who immediately turns into a tomato with legs, tried averting his gaze like he just saw a ghost in his childhood home. Alya, sensing the perfect opportunity for mischief, decides to escalate things and says, "Go get a clean sock from my locker and put it on for me." Kuze's soul officially leaves his body. He hesitates, thinking, how could I put her socks on her legs? Sensing his hesitation in this situation, Alya taunts him that if he couldn't even do such a small thing, and with her words his pride takes over. He bends down, grabbing her foot, he starts to put on her socks. Alya's face goes into pure shock as she was only teasing him, and of course, his hand in a flick of moment touches something which is way off the limit, and Alya, red-faced and flustered, delivers a swift kick straight to his face. Not entirely shocking, because let's face it, he asked for it. Later, Alya keeps pouting for the rest of the day. Suspicious that something is off, Kuze, thinking, approaches her to explain himself and apologize for whatever terrible combination of fate happened earlier. Alya also apologizes for kicking him so hard. Trying to lighten the mood, Kuze blurts out, "Well, I feel lucky. The kick allowed me to see a wonderful view." Alya immediately realizes what he means, and her face turns redder than a spicy ramen, and she punches him again, muttering a stream of Russian curses before running off. Then we see the anime version of Tag across the school, Alya sprinting like the Flash, and Kuze flailing behind like a confused toddler for 10 straight minutes. Eventually, both collapse in exhaustion. Alya admits she might have overreacted, and Kuze offers her favorite drink in apology. Alya, ever the tease, asks in Russian, "Do you want to sip too?" Kuze internally dies because sharing the drink would basically be an indirect kiss. His brain was screaming yes, but his mouth was frozen. If he reacts, she'll know he understands Russian. So, naturally, he pretends he has no idea what she's talking about, maintaining his record as the biggest anime protagonist disaster of all time. Meanwhile, Alya was having an absolute blast teasing Kuze, dropping hints about her feelings left and right while he blissfully floats in his oblivious little anime world. But the reality? Kuze understands every single word she says, but does he act on it? Of course not. He's too busy being a walking, talking disaster. Scene shift to the supply room. Kuze timidly knocks and asks if Yuki is inside. She appears, crossing her arms, and says, "Don't you think you owe me an apology? You made me wait forever." Kuze mocks her, but suddenly, Alya appears from the back, cool as ever, and says, "You two are so close." Hearing her voice, Kuze's brain starts short-circuiting. He didn't even realize Alya was standing there. Three of them now start cleaning the supply room, but Kuze spends most of the time chatting with Yuki. Seeing this, Alya gets jealous and mutters in Russian, "Why aren't you paying attention to me?" Kuze panics internally but puts on his best clueless face again and says, I don't understand." Internally, though, he's thinking, why does Alya always say such sweet stuff about me in Russian? Spoiler, he still can't process the fact that Alya's basically dropping love bombs on him. As Alya keeps rambling in Russian, the student council president Kenzuki pops in, inviting everyone to dinner as a thank you for their hard work. Kuze immediately tries to decline, saying, "I need to go home," but Yuki, being the sassy girl, cuts him off and says, "Who's even waiting for you at home? Might as well come with us." Kenzuki, curious, asks how Yuki knows so much about Kuze. She explains that we're childhood friends. Kuze internally groans. Childhood friend or not, this is going to be awkward. At the restaurant, dinner is served and Kenzuki praises Kuze for completing 2 to 3 days of work in a single day. Yuki casually adds that he's also good at paperwork, which, let's be honest, is the most surprising thing anyone has ever said about Kuze. Then she casually drops a bomb that she's running for student council president in the next election. Kenzuki jokes that she doesn't need his help as anyone going against her is doomed. But then comes the twist, her opponent is none other than Alya. Kuze nearly chokes on his drink. Becoming student council president is a big deal, requiring someone competent, organized, and not, well, like him. After dinner, Yuki and Kanzaki head home, and Kuze walks Alya back to her place before returning to his own. And when Kuze gets home and finds familiar shoes by the door, when he enters inside, he sees a girl reading a romantic novel on his sofa. And it's none other than Yuki. Here it is revealed that she is his younger sister. She announces that she'll be staying over. Kuze immediately complains, "I have to pretend to be your friend in front of everyone because you've lied about being childhood friends instead of siblings." Yuki shrugs like it's nothing and says, "I didn't lie, can't siblings be friends too?" The classic sibling logic that makes Kuze's life 10x more complicated. They live apart, and she only visits when she needs to shop normal life but anime edition. Next day they both go to watch a movie and Yuki loved it so much that she wanted a second round, but Kuze reminds her that shopping schedule trumps cinematic enjoyment. While out, Kuze felt like someone was staring at them. He says, "Is it just me, or is there some silver glare in the corner of my eyes?" Yuki casually says, "Oh, I noticed her a while ago." Turns out it's Alya, awkwardly claiming she just arrived and wasn't stalking them. Kuze and Yuki both know she's lying, but anyways ignore. Yuki then invites Alya to join them for lunch, but Kuze, being in overprotective mode for Alya, blurts out, "If Alya is coming, we're not going to that restaurant." Alya, naturally, feels a pang of jealousy, wondering why Kuze wants to go somewhere alone with Yuki and not with her. Alya was internal screaming, while Kuze remains completely unaware that he's just set off emotional fireworks. Determined not to be left out, Alya insists on joining Kuze and Yuki at Yuki's chosen restaurant. The moment they arrive, Alya immediately regrets her decision as the restaurant's name literally includes the word hell. Her internal monologue was screaming, "This is going to be spicy enough to summon the devil himself." Yuki explains that eating here feels like someone is jabbing needles into your tongue. Perfect. Alya's first experience at Hell's Kitchen, Russian edition. Since it's Alya's first time, they wisely decide to order the least spicy dish for her. Alya, ever observant, notices Yuki's clothes, which were more boyish than usual. Asked Yuki, "What's wrong with your outfit?" Yuki, casually playing it off, says, "It's a holiday, so I thought I'd try something new." Then comes the evil glint in Yuki's eyes, the kind of glare that makes villains in anime shake. She adds, with a mischievous smile, "Oh, and last night I stayed at Kuze's place, so I decided to wear his clothes." Alya nearly chokes hearing this. And Kuze? His face was now the perfect portrait of panic and betrayal. He stammers, "She came to my house uninvited and took all these clothes without asking me," realizing he's been trapped in yet another sibling ambush. At this moment, their orders arrive. Alya stares at the dish. Her eyes were wide enough to rival any shonen protagonist seeing a final boss. She knows there's no backing out now. She takes a bite and instantly, memories of her mother flash before her eyes. Outwardly she was trying to be calm, but internally she's screaming for help in Russian. Kuze, ever the disaster but secretly competent, quickly picks up on her struggle and says, "You can stop if you want." Alya, however, was determined. No one laughs at her, not even spicy food from hell itself. She keeps eating, each bite draining a little more of her soul, while Kuze silently questions all his life choices that led him here. Then Yuki decides to make things worse, because apparently, she has a rivalry with Alya now. She sneaks some extra spicy sauce onto Alya's dish. Kuze notices and attempts to intervene, but Alya stubbornly says, "A single drop won't hurt me." A single drop, and Alya was instantly teleported to another dimension. The scene shifts to park where Yuki steps away for some shopping, leaving Kuze and Alya alone. Kuze brings her ice cream and awkwardly asks, "So, why do you want to become student council president anyway?" Alya responds, "Do I really need a reason?" Kuze counters, "Well, you'll need a teammate, right? You can't run alone." Alya's eyes widen slightly as he actually made sense for once. "If I need a partner, I can make anyone my vice president. I don't need anyone specific." But in Russian, she mutters softly, "I wish it could be you who stands by my side." Kuze's brain short-circuits, but then he blushes. Quickly changing the subject, Alya says, "Now you'll have to help me pick some clothes." Kuze panics and says, "If we shop together, people will think we're a couple." The implication hits him like a truck, and he immediately regrets opening his mouth. At the shop, Alya decides it's time to remind Kuze she's not Yuki tier inferior. She tries on various outfits, each time Kuze complimenting her more and more, making her blush like the perfect Sundra queen she is. She even experiments with boyish outfits inspired by Yuki, and Kuze compliments her again, and her ego inflates even more. Finally, she tries on a slightly revealing dress, and of course, she opens the curtains only to find Yuki also standing there. Alya collapses from embarrassment, and Kuze, well, he's mentally noting that he should have just stayed home. Later, Alya heads home, where her older sister Masha was waiting. Alya tries to hide all the chaos, but Masha, elder sister-level psychic, immediately calls her out saying, "I'm your sister, you can't hide anything from me." Eventually, Alya admits she met one of Kuze's childhood friends that day. Masha laughs, giving her a look that says, "Yep, Kuze, that special friend of yours, looks like he is someone special." Alya blushes furiously and insists, "He's just a friend, nothing more." Masha, still laughing like it's the funniest thing in the universe, replies, "I've known you since childhood, and you've never had any real friends, especially not a boy. There's something special about this Kuze." Alya's internal circuits begin to fry. Special? That little disaster? Her brain goes into overdrive trying to reconcile her admiration with her lifelong habit of keeping everyone at arm's length. She can't rely on others as most people don't take anything seriously, which is why Alya has always struggled to make friends. Then we see a flashback of Alya's middle school. She was the center of attention, everyone praising her, but not just because she's Russian and speaks flawless Japanese, but also because she aced the insanely difficult transfer exams. In the midst of this, she spots Kuze asleep beside her and wonders, how could such an elite school have a student as lazy as this? Time passes, and Alya grows increasingly perplexed. He's terrible at sports, never brings books to class, and sleeps through every lecture. She despised boys like him. Then we fast forward to the school festival, and their class was assigned a haunted theme, and Alya was alone working on her costume after school. Just then Kuze arrives in class and he suggests, "You should go home for now, we'll finish tomorrow." Alya, not the one to bow down to laziness, firmly refuses. Kuze then tells her that the handicraft club has agreed to help with the costumes and they've got permission to stay overnight at school. Alya was speechless. She never expected this from Kuze. She asked him how he managed it. He responds with classic Kuze logic. "If you want to create something great, motivate your team instead of working alone." Alya was left blinking like she's processing alien code, and despite despising him, she can't deny he had a point. The next day unfolds exactly as Kuze predicted. His friends spend the entire night at school working on costumes, and they win Best Costume Award. Alya, trying to maintain her dignity, begrudgingly acknowledges Kuze's effectiveness, while mentally adding, "somehow not completely useless," to his resume. Later, the school hosts a traditional evening dance. Kuze lounges nearby, observing like a potato king, when Alya arrives. He teases her, "Aren't you dancing? Or is it that you don't know how?" Alya's ego immediately stings and she replies, "There's no dance I can't do, I just didn't feel like it." Kuze smirks and says, "Ah, so it must have been hard to turn everyone down, so you decided not to dance at all?" Alya, annoyed, explains she didn't even think about it before refusing. She just didn't want to dance with anyone there. Kuze makes a funny face and jokes, "Our solitary princess sure is stubborn too." Alya, blinking in confusion, asks what he means. Kuze explains to her that everyone calls you this solitary princess. It's a compliment and they think you're royal. Alya, ever perfectionist, scoffs at him as being called a princess reduces her to just her beauty. Her talent, hard work, and achievements are often overlooked. Later, Alya apologizes for snapping at Kuze the other day, acknowledging he was only trying to help. She tells him, "You can ask me for anything." Kuze, cheeky as always, replies, "If you really want to give me something, let me call you by your nickname." Alya, curious, asks why. He says, "Because you're the idol of the class," with a smirk, "and I'd feel very happy being the only one allowed to call you that." Meanwhile, bro just rizzed Alya to the extent even he didn't know. She was internally screaming, "Stop being so adorable." Just then, 3 boys approached her, asking her to dance and confess their love. And just as these 3 love-struck clowns start fighting over Alya, Kuze suddenly grows a backbone, grabs her hand, and says, "Sorry guys, she's not free today." Bro actually pulled a Netflix subscription move, taking what everyone wanted and gatekeeping it. Hand in hand, they waltz onto the dance floor, and for once, Kuze doesn't look like a background NPC. Their dance was beautiful, almost like a Disney moment. Back in the present, Alya was telling this story to Masha. Masha smirks and says, "Ah, so that's how you fell in love." Alya nearly chokes on air and say, "In love? That too with him?" "Absolutely not." Masha starts reminiscing about how a boy once saved her from a dog and they became friends, eventually sparking feelings. Alya, with the reflexes of someone dodging spoilers, cuts her off. "If you want to get all lovey-dovey, go outside. I don't need to hear your cringe romance arc. Savage but brutal." In the next next scene we see Kuze, who shows up at the student council room on Alya's behalf because she couldn't make it. Afterward, he bumps into Masha and offers to accompany her shopping instead of Yuki. He politely calls her Kazuhara-san, but Masha waves it off and says, "If you're Alya's friend, you're my friend too. Just call me Masha." Then she gently takes Kuze's hand. The moment their hands touch, Masha gets this shoujo manga flashback effect, like she's found something important that she lost long ago. In a soft voice, she asks for his full name. Kuze replies, "Masachika Kuze." Her eyes widen like she just unlocked a lost romcom character. Something about that name clearly shook her, but she keeps her poker face. They continue their outing and stop at a tea shop. Masha asks for suggestions, but Kuze admits he knows nothing about tea. Internally, he's like, if only Yuki was here, Mom taught her so much about this stuff. Mentioning his mom makes his mood drop, because apparently even tea can't steep away family trauma. After shopping, they return to the student council room. President Kanzaki thanks Kuze for delivering the items and jokes. If Masha had gone alone, the council room would have turned into Wonderland. Kuze tries not to laugh but also can't deny it's true. Kanzaki then asks Kuze if he'd consider joining the student council. Kuze, being Mr. Lazy himself, immediately declines, saying he's not qualified and only became vice president in middle school because Yuki forced him into it. Kanzaki counters him, "If you're not qualified, then I should resign too." He pulls out an old 9th grade photo of himself. He was overweight, failing academically, and basically invisible. He admits he was once a loser but transformed himself to prove he was worthy of someone. Kuze, never missing a chance to roast, teases, "So your girlfriend's the vice president, huh?" Kanzaki laughs it off and explains joining isn't just about morals, it's also about supporting someone you care about. He tells him that Yuki is running for president this time. Kuze could help her by joining. Kuze, the king of procrastination, just mutters, "I'll think about it." Suddenly he notices Alya isn't around. Kanzaki informs him that she went to mediate a fight between the soccer and baseball teams over ground usage. Kuze decides to check on her, only to find that Alya was being crushed between both teams' fight. She calmly suggests the baseball team to use the riverside grounds, but the players refuse, whining that moving equipment is too exhausting. Meanwhile, the captains were calm, but the team members? Absolute chaos gremlins, ignoring Alya's suggestions. And Kuze was standing there thinking, wow, even when she's stressed out, she's perfect. Meanwhile, I can't even handle deciding between iced coffee and hot coffee. But Alya stood in the middle of the chaos, feeling like her words were vanishing into thin air. Why would they listen to me? She thought bitterly. I've spent my whole life pushing people away, never trusting anyone. Why would anyone listen to someone like me? Her vision blurred as tears were about to spill, and for the first time, the unshakable Alya quietly whispered a plea for help but in Russian. Outside, Kuze overheard everything. At first he thought, she's Alya? She doesn't need me. She's always handled things herself. But when he heard that fragile whisper for help in Russian, something cracked inside him. You always ask for help in a language no one else understands, he thought. But don't worry, I'm here now. For once, instead of napping through life, Kuze decided to step up. Marching in, he introduced himself confidently. Sorry for the interruption. I'm Masachika Kuze, the new General Affairs Officer. Yeah, the same guy who can't even remember to bring his books somehow became an officer. What a plot twist. He then proposed the exact same solution Alya had suggested, but added a condition. The soccer team would help the baseball team move their equipment whenever they practiced near the river. The soccer team immediately refused because why wouldn't they? But then their manager, clearly the only reasonable human in the squad, stepped forward and said it was the least they could do. Her support convinced the soccer team, and in turn the baseball team agreed too. Later, Alya asked Kuze how he knew the manager would agree. Kuze smirked, flexing his one functioning brain cell. Because she's dating the baseball captain. By agreeing, they get more time together while the teams do the heavy lifting. Alya was stunned as Kuze, of all people, had just used romance intel to solve a crisis. Maybe he wasn't a total slacker after all, or maybe he just finally figured out people are motivated by love, not naps. From afar, Kanzaki watched all this with a smile. It turned out this entire mess was orchestrated. He had purposely thrown Alya into a conflict too tough to solve alone, knowing Kuze would be forced to reveal his potential. And his plan worked. Kuze was now tangled in student council business whether he liked it or not. That evening, as Kuze and Alya walked home, she seemed unusually quiet. Then she asked, did you join the student council just to help Yuki? Kuze hesitated. If he said yes, she'd probably quit the election. And if I did? He teased. Alya's eyes sharpened like blades. Then I'd still never back down. Even if you're my opponent, I won't give up. Kuze chuckled, finally showing some courage. In that case, I'll support you. I'll help you become president. I won't ever leave your side. Her heart was overjoyed with emotion. She squeezed his hand and whispered softly in Russian, I like you. Kuze froze for the moment. His heart skipped so violently it nearly logged out of his body. For the first time time since his childhood friend, he felt this rush of warmth. But before he could even breathe, Alya suddenly snapped. Glaring at him, she said, "Wait, were you thinking about another girl?" He didn't even get the chance to deny it, and a slap echoed across the street, painting his cheek bright red. Poor guy just confessed through his silence, apparently. Later, as they continued walking, Kuze whined, "My left cheek is numb now." Alya, blushing furiously, leaned over and kissed his right cheek and says, "It's normal in Russian culture." Kuze, dazed, muttered back, "Well, now both cheeks are numb." But no matter what excuse he gave himself, he couldn't shake her Russian confession out of his mind. Meanwhile, Alya lay awake that night, utterly embarrassed. Why did I say that? I don't like him. He's just a friend. Just a friend. But deep down, she wondered, what if I confessed for real and he rejected me? On the other side, Masha also returned home. Usually, her presence always lit up the house with teasing and laughter, but this time she walked past Alya with a forced smile. No hug, no playful energy. Concerned, Alya asked what was wrong. "It's nothing," Masha insisted. She then offered advice, her voice gentle but heavy. "If Kuze is just a friend, that's fine. But if you like him, tell him before it's too late." She seemed cheerful, but Alya could feel the sadness behind her words, like Masha was hiding her own heartbreak. So, our boy Kuze was walking home and, as usual, drowning in embarrassment. Man's replaying yesterday in his head like it's a cringy TikTok. "Hold my hand, never let go." Bro, even Romeo would have face-bombed at that line. Then his brain short-circuits. Alya confessed? And not as a joke either. This clown now realizes that she was serious, and suddenly he's reliving his tragic childhood flashbacks. His parents loved each other but still split, so his grand conclusion was that love is a scam. Nice logic, dude. Next you'll tell us water is fake because you almost drowned once. He reaches home and spots Yuki's shoes outside. As he opens the door, boom, he finds Yuki changing. She screams, "Shameless." And our boy snaps back that she did this on purpose. Honestly, I believe him. Yuki even breaks the fourth wall like, "Relax, it's for the fans." Girl knows she has to offer some fan service. Later they sit down, and Kuze decides to play dramatic villain. "I'll stand against you in the election, because I'm with Alya now." Yuki goes full soap opera mode crying, that which Alya has brainwashed her bro. Meanwhile, Kuze was combing his little sister's hair while apologizing. "Dude, are you fighting or running a beauty salon?" Yuki just laughs like a final boss and says she'll enjoy crushing him. Then she says, "I know you love me the most." And guess what? Our clown agrees. Kuze really said, "Yep, you're the most important person in my life." Yuki actually softens up, saying she's glad her brother finally found someone worth fighting for. Next day, Kuze wakes up feeling peaceful since Yuki didn't bother him. He's like, "Did I upset her?" But nah, Yuki has been hiding under his bed this whole time. She grabs his leg like a horror movie ghost. Kuze, instead of helping, shoves her further inside. Brother of the year, ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile, Alya was waiting for Kuze in the classroom. Every time the door opens, she's like a cat waiting for its owner. Is it him? Is it him? Finally, he walks in and Alya can't stop staring at him thinking, why does he look so hot today? But then she slaps her brain like, "Focus, woman." And Kuze? He's acting suspiciously competent today, focused, awake, even studying. Alya wonders if it's because of her, but no plot twist again. He just had a good dinner and slept properly. This clown was well rested while Alya spent the night tossing and turning over him. No wonder she storms off thinking, I could never fall for someone like this. But we all know bro already rizzed her. Later, they step into the student council room and meet Chisaki, the vice president who looks like she escaped from a martial arts movie, bamboo stick and all. Kuze, of course, tries to flee like a guilty dog but gets caught. Chisaki apologizes, though honestly her glare alone could end wars. Then Masha and Yuki also arrive. Kuze introduces himself and tells Chisaki not to worry since he's been VP before. Confidence from this clown? That's new. Chisaki pairs him with Masha, while Yuki drags Alya along for some club work. Kuze senses something suspicious but stays quiet. And he was right because once Yuki and Alya were alone in a classroom, Alya drops the bomb. By the way, Kuze is supporting me in the election. And Yuki just smirks and says, yeah, he already told me last night. Last night? Alya was out of her mind hearing this. Yuki calmly tells Alya that she has no grudges since it was Kuze's choice to support her. Still, Alya cannot help but feel a little upset because this also confirms that Yuki was at his house again last night. Suspicion creeps in as she wonders what exactly is going on between these two. She almost asks if Yuki loves him, but before she can finish, Yuki just reads her face like an open book and drops a bomb. She admits without hesitation that yes, she loves Kuze more than anyone else in the world, even more than her own parents. Alya was stunned because who just confesses something like that so casually? But what she does not know is that they are siblings, which makes this whole thing sound way messier than it actually is. Yuki then flips the question back at at her and asks if she loves Kuze. Alya quickly denies it, repeating that they are only friends, but Yuki keeps pressing. She insists that since she was honest, Alya should be too. Finally, Alya cracks and admits she does not know if she likes him but boldly declares that he will never belong to Yuki because he is hers. Yuki just smirks like a cat that just stole the cream, thanks her for the honesty, and leaves satisfied. Later, Kuze was stuck helping Masha with some student council work. He cannot help but admire how focused and hardworking she is while at the same time Chisaki was causing nothing but problems. Kanzaki eventually sighs and reassigns Chisaki to a different role, saying she may be hopeless in general work, but she is actually valuable when it comes to handling club matters. Masha then goes to prepare some tea, and Kuze notices that she was making black tea. He asks if Russians only drink black tea in winter. Masha explains that her mom drinks it all year round. Kuze nods and says that makes sense since her mom is Japanese. Masha was surprised and asks how he knows so much about Russian culture. Kuze explains that as a kid he used to watch Russian movies with his grandfather, which is why he knows a lot. What he does not say out loud is that the real reason is because of his childhood crush, and his mind drifts back to his childhood friend once again. Soon, Alya and Yuki return to the room. Alya wastes no time sliding close to Kuze, practically clinging to him, acting all bold now that she has admitted her feelings earlier. Ever since Yuki confessed, Alya has been stuck in jealousy mode. Kuze just sits there confused, wondering why she is sitting so close. Alya casually explains that young girls sitting at the corners of tables is considered bad luck. Skeptical, Kuze asks Masha for confirmation. Masha confirms that Alya is telling the truth, but he knows Alya was definitely hiding another reason. Later, as Kuze and Alya walk home together, he senses something was off and guesses that Yuki must have said something to her. Stopping in front of a restaurant, he suddenly asks if they can go inside. Alya, a little curious, asks why. Kuze explains that he wants to discuss election strategies. Alya immediately feels let down. She mutters in Russian that she thought he was asking her out on a date. Kuze overhears this and thinks to himself, so that is what she wanted. What is this girl even trying to do? Inside the restaurant, he seriously starts discussing the upcoming elections and how difficult it will be to beat Yuki since most candidates already backed out when they heard she was running. But Alya was barely listening. In her head she was fuming. Why is this idiot talking about elections in a restaurant? Does he not know how to set the mood? Finally, deciding to take control, she scoops up some ice cream and feeds Kuze with the same spoon she has been using, proudly declaring that in Russia this is completely normal. Kuze sees right through her lie but does not bother arguing. He just eats from the spoon, secretly thinking that this girl is dangerous for his sanity. Alya furrows her brow and asks Kuze if Yuki is so strong, then how exactly are they supposed to defeat her? Kuze, being the self-proclaimed strategist, leans back and recalls the Kanzaki way, thinking about how Kanzaki himself was once a total loser but transformed his appearance and gained massive admiration. He tells Alya that if she wants to win, she needs to show people that she is hardworking and capable, not just the perfect-looking queen everyone fawns over. They start brainstorming strategies together while Kuze orders a dessert and mischievously explains that he needs an extra spoon. Alya cannot resist quipping, saying you went through all this trouble just for an extra spoon and here I thought you were used to hanging out with girls. Kuze retorts, feigning innocence, that he didn't realize spoon sharing was so common in Russia and that she does know it is basically like an indirect kiss. Alya, thoroughly embarrassed, mutters in Russian that it is not common at all and she would only do it with him. Kuze, slightly amused, offers her a bite of his food. Of course, Alya ends up with the spicy portion again, and not wanting Kuze to know she cannot handle spicy food, she forces herself to eat it, with her soul practically leaving her body from the heat. As they leave the restaurant, Alya asks who will stand with Yuki in the elections. Kuze reassures her, saying do not worry, as long as Tanima is not by her side, it will be fine. He explains that Taniyama once gave Yuki a tough competition back in middle school. The next day, however, Yuki dramatically reveals her partner for the elections, and Kuze visibly groans, already regretting life choices. Ayano, Yuki's maid, meets Kuze in the hallway and calls him Master Masachika. She explains that she needs to discuss something important. Apparently, she calls him Master because she used to serve him in the past, though now she is Yuki's maid. She informs Kuze that the family head is displeased because he is going against Mistress Yuki. Kuze, clearly fed up with everyone's drama, retorts what is that old man's problem. He recalls how after his parents' divorce, he chose to stay with his father and that his maternal grandfather had forbidden him from acknowledging Yuki as his sister and warned him never to reveal their sibling relationship. Yet now the family expects Kuze to support Yuki in her endeavors, because apparently following logic is overrated. Ayano looks disappointed and says she never thought he would abandon Mistress Yuki and that she believed he would always protect her. Kuze tries to explain that he is not doing this to harm Yuki, he just wants to support Alya. Ayano then asks the bold question if he still has feelings for Mistress Yuki. Kuze admits that yes, he still loves her, but the truth is she does not need him. She is brilliant in academics, appearance, and probably everything else. Later, Ayano meets Yuki and informs her that Kuze has refused to step down. He even said to tell their grandfather that if he wants to discuss anything, he can come directly to him. Ayano adds that he is still the same as before, earning her respect again. Yuki, slightly flustered, jokingly asks if Ayano has fallen for him too. Ayano clarifies that no, she does not have the courage to love him. She simply admires and idolizes him. She shares the most critical update that Kuze has decided to support Alya in the elections. Yuki responds with a confident smile, saying that is good because Alya would not stand a chance without Big Brother's help. This election is not just between her and Alya, it is also between her and her brother. She admits she has never beaten him at anything, but this time she will prove herself. Meanwhile, the student council members were playing cards, and Alya was losing every single round. Chisaki comments that Alya is like an open book and you can easily tell whether she is going to win or lose just by looking at her face, while Masha was far harder to read. Someone asks Ayano why she became a maid, and she explains that her grandparents used to serve Yuki's family and she was inspired by them. That is why she decided to become Yuki's maid back in 2nd grade, because apparently even in anime, childhood role models hit hard. At this moment Kuze calls Ayano over and whispers firmly that no one should know he and Yuki are siblings and to make sure this stays under wraps. Later, as drinks start running out, Masha and Kuze volunteer to get more for everyone. On the way, Masha thanks Kuze for supporting Alya, adding that no one has ever really had her back before. Taking the opportunity, Kuze asks the question that has been bugging him for a while. Are you hiding your serious side? He briefly imagines that maybe, like Yuki, Masha might be concealing her true self. Then he dismisses the thought, thinking nah, Yuki is not that calculated. She's just a simple-minded fool. Masha smiles softly and explains that she acts like a child around Alya because she doesn't want her to see her serious side. Kuze, never one to be outdone, confesses that his reason isn't as noble. He pretends to be lazy so no one expects anything from him. Masha comforts him, reassuring him that everything will be fine. The scene shifts and we see Taniyama confronting Alya, accusing her of using dirty tricks to steal Kuze's attention and claiming she doesn't deserve to be student council president. Just as her frustration peaks, Kuze suddenly rushes over calling her name. He asserts loudly that his support for Alya is entirely his own choice and that she hasn't used any dirty tricks. He demands that Taniyama apologize to Alya. Of course, Taniyama was not having it. She lashes out at Kuze, sneering that at least Alya is good at academics, but losers like him don't deserve to be on the student council. She then challenges him to a debate during the general meeting on whether council members should be selected by the president or the teachers. Kuze immediately understands her strategy. She was deliberately choosing this topic because, as an incompetent student, she knows the teachers would never pick him. Kuze and Alya begin preparing for the debate. Alya asks why Taniyama was so hostile toward him, wondering if they have a past rivalry. Kuze replies casually that not at all, they used to respect each other a lot. She is probably upset because he chose to support Alya over Yuki. Alya feels a pang of guilt realizing Kuze has had to face this criticism just because of her, and she promises she'll do her best to win the debate. They meet Miami, Taniyama's partner, who nonchalantly tells them not to worry as she won't be participating much in the debate and walks away. Kuze warns Alya that Miami could be troublesome because of her extensive connections and subtle manipulations. The debate begins AMD in the audience. Some students whisper that Alya doesn't stand a chance against Taniyama. Taniyama confidently presents her arguments, claiming that teachers should decide council members since they are in the best position to select who truly deserves the role. Her confident delivery impresses many, including Kuze, who thinks to himself that it wasn't even a particularly strong point, but the way she presented it will make everyone take it seriously. When it's Alya's turn, she was visibly nervous and struggles to start. Suddenly, before her speech, Kuze unexpectedly approaches and asks what's her size. Shocked and embarrassed, Alya snaps, asking if this is even an appropriate place to ask that. Kuze smirks and replies that he asked here because he knew she wouldn't hit him in public. She scolds him for his audacity, and he points out with a cheeky grin that see, now you're not nervous anymore. His unorthodox distraction technique worked, and Alya regains her composure, ready to take on the debate. Alya begins her argument, stating that only the president and vice president should have the right to choose council members because the students elected them, meaning they trust their judgment. If teachers were allowed to decide, it would be unfair to to the president and vice president, stripping them of their authority. They wouldn't even be able to select team members they trust. Her reasoning resonates with many in the audience. Taniyama interrupts, arguing that presidents select anyone who applies, and this could lead to incompetent students joining the council and sharing responsibilities, which is why teachers should handle the process. Alya counters that they have never faced such an issue before, so there is no reason to take this responsibility away from the president. Taniyama had no response to this. However, Miami subtly stirs trouble by signaling planted audience members who begin heckling Alya. They insult her, saying things like, "What does she know? She isn't even from this country, and all she is good at is academics. She knows nothing about leadership." The remarks are clearly meant to humiliate her and destroy her confidence, but Alya, as always, keeps her head high, mentally rolling her eyes at the absurdity of it all while Kuze stands by, trying not to sweat bullets for once. Kuze quickly realizes that this is Miami's dirty trick. She had strategically placed people in the audience to demean Alya, and it's working. Alya's confidence starts to waver under the pressure. Her vision blurs, and the negative comments drown out her thoughts. Just when it seems like she can no longer continue, Kuze steps in and announces, "I'll take over from here." He explains that Alya has lost her voice from speaking so much, and no one objects to him taking charge. He resumes the debate, starting with an example about Kanzaki, explaining how he was once an incompetent student disliked by all the teachers. However, the student council gave him a chance, eventually making him council member. Over time, Kanzaki earned the respect of his peers. Kuze emphasizes that the essence of the student council is giving people a chance to improve. If we leave this decision to teachers, they'll only select academically gifted students, and others will never get an opportunity to grow. His words resonate with the audience, slowly shifting the tide in his favor. Taniyama, unable to counter Kuze's arguments, was left speechless. Alya, despite being exhausted, follows his lead. She sees Taniyama crying. Grabbing her hand, Alya asks why she behaved this way. Taniyama confesses that her actions were fueled by anger and disappointment. She explains how much she admired the partnership between Yuki and Kuze. "Yes, I was envious of them," she admits, "but I respected them because they were such a great team. That's why I withdrew from the elections." Losing to Yuki and Kuze didn't hurt her because she accepted their strength. But when she saw Kuze supporting Alya instead, it felt like betrayal. As Taniyama speaks, she realizes her assumptions and actions were entirely her own fault. She apologizes to Alya, admitting she had no right to blame her. Alya accepts the apology, saying, "Even I don't fully understand why Kuze chose me, but I promise I'll prove that I deserve his support." Meanwhile, Miami, watching this, comments quietly, "She's a good person." Taniyama nods. Of course she is. Kuze wouldn't have chosen her otherwise. Later, Alya recounts everything to Kuze. She promises, "I'll prove to everyone that you weren't wrong to choose me over Yuki. I'll work harder than ever before." Kuze replies, "Back in middle school I chose Yuki during the elections because I couldn't refuse her. But this time it's different. This time I chose you because I genuinely want to support you." Alya, with a playful smile, teases him, "You should explain that in a little more detail." Blushing, Kuze retorts, "Stop teasing me, and anyway, why are you so determined to prove yourself to me?" Alya, with a small grin, answers in Russian, "It's simple, because it's you." Kuze, confused, admits he doesn't fully understand Russian, leaving Alya to chuckle at his reaction. The scene shifts to Yuki's house, where her grandfather was discussing the debate. He sternly tells Yuki, "You must not lose to Kuze at any cost. You need to uphold the family's reputation." Yuki agrees and leaves. Her mother approaches her, asking if everything is fine between her and Kuze. Yuki assures her it is, but when her mother questions further, she remains evasive. 2 weeks later, the entire school was still buzzing about the debate. Alya's performance and how she compelled Taniyama to retreat are the talk of the campus. Alya recounts the events to Kuze in the council room, explaining that students shouldn't criticize Taniyama for running away. She asks Kuze to help Taniyama, and he comforts her, saying he will always support her. Just then, Kuze notices someone hiding under the table. It turns out to be Kanzaki and Shisaki, embarrassed that they've been listening the entire time. Alya feels flustered, but before they can spiral into panic, Kuze reassures them, saying no one saw or heard anything, so let's keep this secret between us. Alya, however, doesn't seem convinced and leaves clearly upset. Later, Kuze approaches Mayami with a request. He asks her to confess the truth about her role in Taniyama's withdrawal. Mayami had planted people in the audience to turn the tide against Alya. Initially hesitant, Mayami agrees after realizing it would help her friend Taniyama in the long run. She jokes, "This feels like a movie scene. I guess I'll have to send someone to spread the rumor." While they're talking, Alya appears, interrupting the conversation. She remarks sarcastically, "Wow, 3 childhood friends alone in a room, what could you possibly be discussing?" Her tone was sharp, and it's clear she's still upset. Kuze panics, trying to explain, but Alya brushes him off and walks away. Later, Alya and Kuze were studying together, but the tension lingers. Although she was angry, Alya sits unusually close to Kuze, making him uncomfortable but hesitant to say anything. Their awkward silence was broken when Masha enters the room holding a book on hypnosis. Excited, Masha asks Alya to try hypnotizing her. Alya refuses, claiming she doesn't believe in such things. However, curiosity gets the better of her, and she convinces Kuze to try it instead. Kuze, attempting to hypnotize Masha, tells her to focus on his finger and listen for his clap. To everyone's shock, Masha actually falls unconscious after the clap. Kuze and Alya panic, thinking something has gone wrong. Alya suspects Masha is faking it, so, reading the book's instructions, Kuze finds a way to reverse the hypnosis. When Masha wakes up, she convinces Kuze to hypnotize Ayano, and when he claps, this time both Alya and Masha fall under hypnosis. Yuki jokingly tells them to take off their shirts, and both start removing their clothes. Just then, Chisaki arrives, and Yuki explains everything to her. Using her martial arts, Chisaki resets both Alya and Masha. She angrily tells Kuze that now he needs a reset too, since he's seen everything. Later that evening, Alya calls Kuze, surprising him. Teasingly, he says, "Were you missing me so much that you had to call me at this hour?" Alya responds in Russian, "So what if I was?" The playful exchange lightens the mood. Kuze shares that he's been feeling unmotivated to study, and Alya encourages him, saying, "We're the same age after all." Kuze corrects her, revealing that his birthday is on April 19th while hers is November 7th, making him 7 months older. This revelation leaves Alya unusually quiet, prompting Kuze to change the subject. He mentions meeting her tomorrow and they end the call. The next day, Alya seems upset and tells Kuze that she's annoyed because he didn't invite her to his birthday party. Kuze, confused, asks if she wants to go out with him to celebrate. After school, they go out, and Alya admits she's never been on a date before. Kuze reflects to himself how unbelievable it is that someone as beautiful as Alya has never been on a date. At a restaurant, they discuss the upcoming debate between Yuki and Alya. Kuze explains that this debate will be unlike any other. Both will need to present their ideas, and the one who receives the most applause will win. Kuze admits that beating Yuki will be nearly impossible, but they might play a few mind games. He also hints that Alya might not go along with his plans. After this, Alya feeds him with a spoon. Kuze blushes and eats it without saying much, feeling embarrassed. He wonders to himself that Alya probably won't use the spoon again and can't believe she would do something like that. He also wonders if she's trying to drive him crazy. Later, the student council was talking about the debate, and Kuze notices that Masha is avoiding eye contact with him. He suspects it's because he used hypnosis on her earlier. Later, Kenzaki's parents arrive, so he leaves and Kuze goes on to apologize to Masha for what happened. But she admits that it was her idea initially, so there was no need for sorry. After everyone leaves, Yuki starts acting like a sad child, lying on the table as if ignored by her brother. Kuze tells her to stop with the drama, adding that she shouldn't talk about ignoring someone when she is the one completely ignoring that Ayano was still in the room. Later, Kuze receives a message from his grandfather saying that he has arrived at the school, so he rushes to meet him. Then Kuze's backstory is revealed. He was never a loser. He excelled at everything from studies to sports, even playing the piano. However, his mother was never happy with his achievements, always wanting him to be even better. Back in the present, we see that Kuze was sick and Alya visits Kuze at his house. She tells him that Yuki asked her to take care of him as she was busy. Alya stops Kuze from criticizing Yuki, reminding him that Yuki requested her help. Feeling guilty, Kuze apologizes, admitting his mistake. Alya forgives him and, to make up for it, prepares a delicious dish. She even brings it to Kuze's room, and he compliments her cooking. However, just then Ayano arrives, and Alya wasn't pleased by her arrival and felt jealous. Alya tells Ayano that she should stay away from Kuze, but Ayano says that as Yuki's maid, it's her job to help her out, and she was ordered to take care of Kuze. The next day, Kuze wakes up at 12:30 p.m., realizing that school must have already ended. Stepping outside, he sees Ayano cleaning and asks why she isn't at school, though he doesn't push the conversation further. Something felt off. He then asks Ayano to bring him the medicine Yuki had given him earlier. When she does, Kuze realizes it's the same medicine that makes him fall asleep, confirming that this was all part of Yuki's plan. Ayano bows her head, apologizing for not telling him sooner and accepting any punishment. Kuze decides not to worry about it now as his focus was on seeing Alya. In a flashback, we see Yuki asking Alya to be her guest for a midday broadcast where they will discuss the issue about Taniyama. Yuki also mentions that she doesn't consider her earlier victory over Taniyama a true win since she was frozen in fear and it was Kuze who saved her. In the scene, Alya asks Yuki if she noticed something, and Yuki responds with a wicked smile, almost villainous. Alya tells her that she will no longer be a burden to Kuze and that she can handle Yuki herself. The next day, both Alya and Yuki were in the broadcast room. Alya seems uneasy, but Yuki reassures her, saying she forgives her and that she should lift her head. Yuki explains her desire to become president is driven by a big reason. She reveals she had an older brother who passed away, and this wish drives her ambition. Alya curiously asks about it, but Yuki provides little detail before the broadcast begins. Before they start, Yuki asks Alya why she wants to be president. Alya had no answer. Unsettled, she performs poorly during the broadcast and is left devastated. Kuze arrives at school and sees Alya crying in her classroom. He cheers her up, pointing out that Yuki's goal was to get into Alya's head and depress her before the closing ceremony speeches. Now Kuze begins to scheme against Yuki himself. Alya notices him smiling like an evil mastermind, furious over his sister's underhanded trick. She thinks it makes him look more attractive, but still she couldn't put two and two together that he is Yuki's brother. Meanwhile, Taniyama and Nanoa interrupt to properly apologize for the general meeting and announce that Taniyama is quitting the contest to become president. Kuze asks her not to announce it publicly yet, as he just thought of a way for Alya to defeat Yuki during the closing ceremony. While preparing for her speech, Kuze teaches Alya a trick to engage the audience. Yuki goes first, giving a speech about resurrecting the student suggestion box and referencing her past experience as president in middle school. Kuze admits it was a good speech, even though it contained only empty promises. After Yuki, Ayano gives a speech on becoming Yuki's vice president, shamelessly praising her. Now it's Alya's turn. She confuses the audience by starting her speech in Russian. After speaking for a while, she admits that when she gets nervous and speaks in Russian. The audience finds this funny, lightening the mood and helping them focus. She explains that she takes her work seriously but is realistic enough to admit she may not be suited to be the perfect president yet. If she feels she's not improving by mid-year, she will step down. Her honest approach surprises everyone, and although her applause isn't as loud as Yuki's, it's still louder than she expected. Next, Kuze entertains the crowd with his usual jokes and humor. He reveals that although he initially supported Yuki, he now stands by Alya because she is honest and didn't make unrealistic promises like Yuki. Kuze further reveals that even Alya's former opponent, Taniyama, is now supporting her, shocking everyone. Taniyama's switch of allegiance confirms that Alya's speech was sincere and grounded. The audience, including Yuki, reacts with loud applause that even surpasses Yuki's. This marks Alya's victory in the closing ceremony speech. Yuki smiles and acknowledges that she lost this round but reminds everyone that the battle isn't over yet. Later, Kuze and Alya check the results. Kuze, having failed to make the top 30, is reminded that he still has a promise to fulfill, granting Alya one wish. He jokingly tells her that everyone knows he supports her and she should start calling him by his first name. Alya gets flustered trying to say it but feels too shy. In Japanese culture, using someone's first name is a sign of close friendship, subtly hinting that they have become very close friends or possibly something more. As summer break approaches, Kuze jokingly suggests that Yuki and Ayano will likely plan something to try to defeat them in next year's election. He proposes that they meet during the summer, though his real motivation was simply to keep seeing Alya. Alya, smiling and blushing, agrees. This marks the end of the season, and if you guys enjoyed this wholesome anime, a like would be really appreciated, and subscribe for more videos like this.